Radio, Sultanate of Oman, 90.4, and the Sultan Qaboos Center for Islamic Culture presents
In the monsoon rain,
Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Listen and get involved personally in this holy month of Ramadan. Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Presented by Hatem Hatif Al Abdul Salam. Produced by Matloob Ayel Al Wahabi. Reaching Out Through Dialogue, a special on Radio Sultanate of Oman, 90.4.
Dear listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our program Reaching Out Through Dialogue. I'm your host Hatem Al Absalam. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished guest, Mr. Ahmed Mubarak Al-Mata'ani, who is a lecturer in one of the private colleges in Oman. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Ahmed.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
It's good to have you again on the show.
It's my honor to be here, actually. Thank you again for the invitation to continue talking about the second part of the topic.
Okay. Today, we're going to continue talking about the topic of imitation. And just to remind you all what we had discussed yesterday, Ahmed is going to take us through some of the points.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ahmed.
Well, we talked last time about, some of the points related to the idea of imitation. We talked about, the meaning of imitation. We talked also about, some related terms, to the term imitation, like assimilation. And then we talked about, the 4 levels of imitation, or the 4 types of imitation. And then we talked about why do people imitate. And then we concluded with the first part of our discussion yesterday about why people imitate nowadays more than before. Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the first point today, Ahmed, which is what are the most common forms of imitation?
Well, first of all, this is, like a very difficult thing, because you cannot accommodate all the forms, okay? But we're going to talk about, some of the common forms of, blind imitation, Let's focus here in our community and so on. One of the common forms of imitation is the appearance form. Okay. And this, could include the way we have, our hairstyle, okay? The way we dress, okay, and also the way we walk and so on.
The way we talk.
Yeah, the way we talk and so on. The kind of phrases and so on. And I think, last time you were talking about something related to this, maybe you can
remind me
talk
of the story when I was studying abroad. When I was in the college, I was sitting with one of my friends, and one of the guys passed in front of us. He seemed to be crippled, okay, as if one leg is shorter than the other.
Wow. And
I felt sorry for him, and I told my friend that, subhanallah, I feel very sorry for this young man who is, crippled. And he said, no, he's not crippled. It's just a way of walking that makes you look cool. And I thought, what a stupid thing to do. Because God gave you,
health,
the best health and everything, and then you go and act as if you're a cripple,
Yes, exactly. Don't pretend to be sick, or you will be sick, So that's one of the teachings, this is, very sad, and nowadays, with this huge culture coming to us, from the West and from other cultures, we are facing a lot of problems in terms of the way we imitate, the Westerns, okay, or the Western culture. And I'm talking here about, the negative side, because there are a lot of positive, things, from the Western culture.
And we encourage people to imitate these things,
Yeah, I like you were in the West, I was in the West, okay, and we were impressed, with a lot of principles, a lot of, ideas, okay, that, these people are following. But here we are focusing on the negative side of the story, okay, and, talking about, for example, hairstyle. Now, you have all these, crazy styles going on now here, in the country, like in different colors, okay, different forms, okay, people are engraving, their names and letters and phrases on their heads, and sometimes you cannot imagine, that, would say such a thing here in our community, okay, and sometimes, I think, we have really over exceed, what they did. Okay, they sometimes, you find the styles that you will never find somewhere else.
We learn from the best, but now we're better than them.
Exactly. It's really sad. Like we are competing actually, and I'm afraid that our youth are going to create something. They're going to be role models maybe in the future. For these people who created those ideas.
Yeah.
This is something scary. We should be role models, in terms of good things, good qualities, good personalities, and so on. Not, copying things which are minor and they don't add a lot to
For the sake of argument, would be okay if they imitated everything, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they only took the bad and they left the biggest chunk of the good things.
Yeah,
that they could have imitated.
Yeah, this is really sad. Another thing, something to do with appearance, okay, is the way we dress. And like sometimes this is something to do with gents and ladies actually. And sometimes I just find it very difficult to understand that how these people fit into these clothes. Okay, how long it takes them to get into these kind of clothes. Okay. And sometimes you will see them suffer the way they walk, okay, because how
so
tiny and tight these kind of clothes they're wearing, they suffer, and you can see their facial expressions, all this like showing that they are tired, or they cannot cope wearing those things.
But maybe the pressure is more from the fashion industry that they have to impress their friends.
Yeah,
they have to look cool, they have to look fashionable.
Yeah, but still like, why do you have to suffer? You can look cool, okay, but you don't have to suffer. Okay, but I don't understand. And another thing that I have noticed as a form of imitation is something to do with ideas. Okay, because sometimes like there are things we cannot cross. Like we can take it from another culture that does not believe in what we believe, okay, where there's no clash and there's no contradictory issues, in between. For example, the idea of having a boyfriend, for example, now. It's becoming a very common thing, okay? Yeah. And we know this is not acceptable, okay, in our teaching.
Yeah.
But,
no matter how advanced we become.
Yes, we can, but still people, have the idea of having a boyfriend and a girlfriend. And they don't know that, this is something not acceptable, not allowed in our religion. And I'll give you one example. Like it seems that, a lot of young people think this is something cool. And and the victim most of the time is the girls, okay, because girls are looking for maybe commitment and relationship and so on. So maybe they open the door for these guys to enter their lives, okay, assuming that maybe in the future we'll get married.
There will be a commitment.
Yes, but they forget one important factor, which is that men usually do not trust women who could have a relationship with them. Because they assume from the beginning, if she has this relationship with me, she can have it with another person. And, they have to understand that. I cannot imagine that, this is something scary. Like we think that, by having, a boyfriend or girlfriend, this is something cool. And it shows that, I'm open-minded, I can talk to anybody. No, this is not acceptable. Okay.
So you have to go to extreme to be open-minded.
Yeah, yes, this is another sad thing about our generation or a new generation. The other form that I want to talk about is something to do with some of the habits. For example, like we associate certain jobs with certain bad habits. For example, if you want to be a philosopher, you need to smoke. Okay,
this is getting interesting now.
Yeah, so like some people think that with the smoking, it's always associated with what? Being a philosopher, or educated, or a writer for most of the time. If you're a good writer, you need to smoke. Okay, and we have a lot of famous writers. Okay, in the language literature, for example, who committed suicide at the end because of drinking problems. So now a lot of people think that in order to become a very famous writer, you need to also
commit
drink.
suicide.
So, or you need to drink, and then maybe gradually you need to commit suicide. And I spoke to a lot of people, here in this country, where they believe in this. Okay, they have this idea that, I want to become a very famous fighter, so I have to drink, and then gradually maybe, I have to decide which day that I should die, and not only that, I have to commit suicide. Not only dying, but
So it's basically crossing red lines.
Yes, yeah. You're playing, like the role of God, deciding when to die and things like that. And of course, you're thinking about,
Ahmed, I never thought that is going to develop into this.
Yeah.
I always thought that imitation is something simple, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you eat. But I never imagined that it's going to be to the extent that you might commit suicide.
Yeah. Like people think that, because, when you start, imitating somebody that you like, you want to follow the steps of that person. Okay, how did he start, for example, the journey of writing? How did he develop, whatever? And then gradually, how did that person die? You want to know all the details, okay, of that person. And you will just do whatever it takes you to become that person. Because for you, that person is a role model. And you're ready to do whatever it takes you to become that person.
This brings us to the next point, Ahmed, the effects of blind imitation. I'm sure there is a lot of effect, and maybe you can categorize them so that our audience would understand or take note.
When it comes to the effects or the consequences of imitation or blind imitation in this context, we need to divide them into two groups. First of all, on the individual level, okay, the effects that, might touch a person, him or herself only. And of course, that will lead to the second level, which is the society level. Okay. Because any society mainly depends on individuals. So if the individuals are okay, then we're going to have a good society. If the individuals are not okay, then it means, there's a problem. The
society is going to be affected.
Yes. So talking about the effects, at the individual level, there are so many, consequences or effects that, people will get out of, blind imitation. When we talk about, individually, there will be, first of all, psychological, effects. Because these people, first of all, they lose their identity and they don't know where they are fitting. They don't know. So you find them sometimes, following this person, then another person, because they try to imitate, because they don't have a strong personality, and they end up being so many people. Okay, at the same time.
Mentioning the identity, Ahmed, we came across a very interesting group, which is here in Oman, which is called Oman Life Makers. And they had a campaign about identity, introducing the concept again to youngsters, and that you should not lose your identity. If you want to follow fashion, you can follow fashion, but always remember where you're coming from, and always stick to your identity, because that's the only thing that you have. And it was a very interesting campaign, and I wish them all the best, and I wish we get more of these awareness
This is, one of the solutions that, we want to talk about, later on, that, we should, sort of present our ideas in a fashionable way that does not clash with the teaching of our religion. So we are open, like we always, like our religion is very open to the idea of changing. Okay, but this change should be within the limit or the principles or the guidelines of the religion.
That's the thing that we need to explain to people, that our religion is so flexible.
Yes.
And the doors are open, and you're free to do whatever you want, but within the boundaries. And people restrict themselves in the boundaries, and they forget that the amount of freedom that they get in the religion.
Yeah, this is, this brings us back to the idea of ignorance. They don't know the value of this religion. They don't understand, or they don't fully understand the religion. So they think, they just have, certain ideas, or they tend to mimic what other people say about, this religion. And they think that, it's always, narrow-minded, rigid, like we don't have a freedom, okay, we don't have this choice, like
it's more don'ts than do's.
Yes, okay. There's nothing wrong with that, actually, okay, because sometimes, you need to follow a lot of don'ts, okay, so that you be in the safe side. But, they have to understand also, the principles of that religion. They have to be educated, They don't take only one side of the story.
Who stated these principles?
Yes.
In the first place.
Yes. For sure, so they don't know that, if they will, if they get educated about, their teachings, they will know that, this religion is very, very flexible. And it can accommodate a lot of issues, like it has accommodated a lot of issues before, and it will accommodate more issues, okay, in the future. Okay, so it's open. It's a religion that can solve any issues. Okay, but first of all we have to be educated. And remember when we're talking about knowledge, the problem is that when we're talking about the 4 levels of knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, knowing about the things that we know, and knowing about the things that we know that we don't know, and the things that we don't know that we know, and the things that we don't know that we don't know. And this is fall in the 4th category. The problem is that we don't know that we don't know, a lot of teachings, okay, of our religion. And people, come up with all this, slogans and phrases that, the religion of Islam is very rigid and blah, blah, blah. Tell me some, evidence, to support whatever you say.
You're saying.
Yes. And so that's another problem that we are facing. Now, if we go back to the effects, on the individual.
Yeah.
Okay, there are other, like educational effects. Okay. Because of the kind of life that we have, our educational system will get affected. Because the education system usually is built upon what we need in our society.
Yeah.
So if the system, if education is trying to serve the needs of the society. So because of that, educational system, which is completely affected by the needs of the society, people or individuals will tend to focus on certain ideas. Okay. And because, people talk about only these ideas, and they will forget about other ideas. And the victims are the people who are getting this kind of education. And in this case, the individual. And so people will not have this, what we call them, higher thinking skills to analyze, okay, to criticize, to evaluate, because, we only imitate. We are not moving, we are still at the lower levels.
You lose the basic skills that you need.
Yeah, you need, for your life. So we only, we are still at the basic levels, okay, of knowledge and comprehension. We don't move, to higher levels where we have to evaluate, we have to analyze, we have to synthesize, and so on. We don't have, these kind of skills. And the product will be what? Individuals with not valid educational background. Yes,
yeah.
And they will be shaky all the time. They will not be able to discuss things, okay, to defend or to prove, to the world, why, for example, we are doing this and why we are not doing that, okay? They just imitate and they don't, think about why they are doing so. Okay,
yeah.
This is something also. And of course, in terms of religion, okay, people who are made to believe that, the religion is a scary thing, they will be what?
Moving away from
their religion.
religion.
Okay, and which will create, a generation of people who do not, okay, have any kind of solid background about their religion. And so when you talk to them about, religion, they will say, well, I don't want to talk about this.
I'm not interested to.
I'm not interested. They are forgetting, a very important thing, which is that this is what we call it in Sharia, this is a must type knowledge.
You have to have.
You have to have, you have to understand, okay, your religion. You don't go and...
Because the religion is the way of your life.
Way of life, exactly. It's a way of life. And, even in one of the teachings or in one of the statements that some scholars, try to say is that, if you go and ask a scholar and, by one reason or another, you got, the wrong answer, then you are to be blamed. This is, a very good indication that, you should, be educated about, a lot of issues, okay? And you try to be, sort of a scholar of yourself. Of course, you cannot be a scholar of yourself unless you have what?
You seek knowledge.
You seek knowledge. And, like the first verse in the Holy Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad was what?
Peace be upon him.
And
Was
yes,
recite.
Yes. This is a very good indication that, this religion teaches, okay, knowledge, education, and so on. And the other thing is, the social aspect. These people who tend to imitate, they will just go and stick to a certain group, okay, the group that they have the same interest. Okay?
Yeah.
And then, their social connections will be very limited. And we know that, we tend to learn more from each other and, we learn also from other people and so on. So it's very important that, you should be sort of surrounded with people. And what I mean by surrounded by people, good people.
So you'll be as isolated in a certain group only.
Yes. You'll be just, confined or connected to a certain group of people. And you will not be mingling with other people where you can learn more and more. So this is at the individual level.
Now, are there any other effects, Ahmed?
So actually, this is, at the individual level.
In the beginning, you said that there are two types of effects, on an individual level and on the society level. So take us through the next level.
Yeah, of course, like any society is based on people. Okay? If we have people who are okay psychologically, socially, educationally, and so on, we're going to have what? A good nation. So if we make sure that, people are okay in all these aspects, we're going to have what? A good society. Now, if we have people who are, lacking, educational skills, lacking, social skills, they have psychological problems,
And they are isolated into small groups.
Yes, what's going to happen? We're going to have a very weak society.
Yeah.
And not only that, it will make other people attack us more and more. And will be, a very easy, let's say, group of people whom other people will be very interested in attacking and, trying to convey a lot of negative messages about, the society.
Because you're going to be a minority as well.
Yes. And not only that, the number of people will be less and less. And then, maybe, this will create a lot of problems, within the society where people, feel that they don't have any goals, they don't have any principles, and they might, do a lot of crazy things. Okay, they might commit suicide, they might, do some crazy things. Okay, they might cross, that freedom, whatever they call it, line, and then do a lot of crazy things. So the society in total is going to be
affected
and will have a lot of problems in the future.
And the other thing, Ahmed, the effect on society is these people imitating, it's like a disease.
Yeah.
And it can spread. Once one person starts doing something, the rest will follow. We tend to follow every single thing that we see.
Yeah.
And once, if it's something bad that you're imitating, and if it spreads in the community, then that's a alarming thing.
Yeah. And another thing that we should add to the list of the effects on the society is that our people will become more consumers. Okay, because now when
how is that?
Yes, very good question. For example, when there is something fashionable in the market, okay, they will go on. Pick it. Then watch, something on the TV, like worn by, one of the famous actors and, stars and so on. So they just consume. On the other side, we are asked or advised to what? To produce.
To be productive.
Yes, exactly. But, but when we imitate, we just take things. We just copy things, okay? We are not, producing anything to the nation, but, we are just, consuming things, okay?
And it becomes unlimited. Our needs are unlimited.
Unlimited.
We just need, selfishly.
Yeah.
Even the things that we don't need.
Yes, we will just go for
We'll just go and get them.
And then we'll end up, selling everything we need. Yeah. So that's, in general, the impacts of on our society.
We have a few minutes, Ahmed, before the break. Now we move on to more specific to the young generation.
Yeah.
Okay, Ahmed, we come across young people these days who claim that imitating is part of freedom and it is considered to be a cool thing. What do you think?
Well, now, first of all, what is the meaning of a freedom? Okay, freedom. First of all, it's something to do with, like if you have a free choice to do something, but that thing should not cross somebody's, freedom. This is one thing. People have to understand that, if I cannot, have a problem with somebody else, I'm not crossing, your freedom, then this is okay. But it doesn't mean that, I can do things which could, harm other people. Okay? We cannot be, a cause of harming other people in our teaching.
Ahmed, what is the assumption?
Yeah.
Is as long as you don't say something about it, that it doesn't harm you, then I would assume that, okay, it's okay for me to do it.
No.
I'm practicing my freedom,
Uh-huh.
okay? And you, as being part of the society, you are not affected because you didn't say anything about it.
Yeah. But, if I don't say something about it, it doesn't mean this is, not, crossing, the limit of somebody.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm quiet, I didn't say anything, but, somebody else might say something. So we cannot, generalize. We cannot generalize, that, this is, working, with everybody. So I don't think, this is, work here. Because people, have, different reactions, okay? You will react, in a way which is completely different from the way I would react. So we cannot generalize by saying that.
Ahmed will take a short break and we'll come back to the point of freedom after the break, inshallah.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away in his home in Medina.
You are listening to the program Reaching Out Through Dialogue. We will be back for more in just a moment.
Welcome back, Ahmed. Now, before the break, we were discussing about freedom, and you were elaborating regarding freedom. Just continue on that.
Yeah. So the idea of a freedom, like coming back to the concept of a freedom. As I said before, if that kind of a freedom does not bring any kind of harm to other people and to the culture or to the religion, okay, then it's okay. But, these kind of, imitating actions or behaviors and so on, they bring a lot of, problems, for the whole society, for the individual, and for, other people. But, when people do not, react, okay, that doesn't mean that we have the right to exceed the limit,
Ahmed, let us put ourselves in their shoes, okay? The argument is, if I want to do something, if I want to imitate, okay, or copy someone, okay, do I need to go and check with everyone in the community or society whether this is offending or not?
No.
Then it means I won't live my life.
No. What I'm saying here that, within the teaching of the religion, because, sometimes you might do something good, but the society might not like it.
Yeah.
So in that case, like, should I just, check with everybody whether, people will be happy or not with that thing? No.
Because now we're getting into culture and religion,
yes.
and it's two different things.
Yeah.
And people need to understand what is okay and what is not.
Yes. Now, this is a very, very good point that you just, talked about, which is, the differentiation between culture and religion. When I talk here, when I was referring to culture, I mean the culture of Islam. I don't talk about, the Imani culture or the Arab culture or whatever. No, I'm talking about, the Islamic culture.
The Islamic culture.
Okay. Because what is acceptable in, let's say, an Imani culture might not be acceptable in the Islamic culture. This is why I say the teaching of Islam all the time whenever I mention the word, culture. Okay. So we have to clarify this, from the beginning. So we're not talking about the Omani culture. We're not talking about, the Arab culture or
any other
cultures.
culture.
Yeah, we're talking about the Islamic culture, regardless of the ethnic group that we're talking about here. So, I don't need to check with everybody to see whether this is okay or not.
I should know better.
Yes. I should only check whether this is something to do with my teachings of my religion or not. Otherwise, I don't care. Because, as I said before, you might have something really good and part of your teaching, of your religion, but, people might not like it. Like, for example, if you don't like, for example, to drink, this is part of your teaching. It's very clear, explained in the religion, but, some people say, well, why, you are very, narrow-minded and you don't, follow the modern lifestyle and so on. Well, there is no modern lifestyle here. This is very clear, okay, and I cannot cross it. So this is, something, that we have to understand. So now coming back to the idea of a checking, it should be within the teaching and the guidelines of your religion. I don't have to check with everybody.
Yeah, but Ahmed, again, there are some areas which are vague, which religion has not mentioned anything about. Okay, and Muslims tend to go back to their scholars.
Yeah.
For clarification,
Yeah.
for the things which are vague. Okay, but one would say that I don't have to take everything what the scholars say. I can only follow the Quran and the teaching of the Prophet. That's it. Why that's an argument.
Yeah. Now, answering your question will lead, first of all, to a small discussion. Okay. First of all, like scholars, that we have here, they cannot be scholars unless, they obtain certain qualities.
Yeah.
You cannot call anybody a scholar.
Yeah.
So in order to get to that title or to that, position, you need to go through a lot of stages of education, piety, name all these, requirements, to be called.
Years of dedication.
Exactly. And, you cannot. And, another factor that we have also to consider is that, in our teachings, we were advised and instructed, actually, okay, to be scholars of ourselves. When one of the sayings of the Prophet, they consult yourself, okay, although other people will consult you. But we have to be careful. You will never get to that stage unless you are well educated and you have all the requirements of being a scholar of yourself.
Don't you agree, Ahmed, that within ourselves, each one of us really knows what is right and what is wrong?
Well,
sometimes we might pretend that, okay, we'll just pretend that we don't know that it is wrong, but deep inside, we know that it is wrong.
Well, this is also arguable, okay, because, some people might not know what they are doing, okay, or they might not know what is right and what is wrong, okay, because of the way they are brought up. Okay, sometimes lack of education, the way we just, tend to talk to them, and so many factors, okay? But yes, most of the time, we are born with this good intention, okay, from the beginning. And this is why, people, yes, sometimes they feel there is something wrong, but maybe they don't know exactly what is wrong, what is going on here. But there's something wrong. And so they need more education, they need more knowledge to know about, what is right, what is wrong.
Ahmed, in our daily life, okay, there are some rules and regulations that you would not be forgiven if you cross them. For example, if I'm a tourist in this country, okay, and I'm driving, I come across a red light. I am not aware that you should stop in a red light. Will the law punish me for not knowing that I should stop in the red light, or will I go free and they will just forgive me?
No, for sure.
I'm assumed to know, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not an excuse that I don't know.
Yeah.
If I don't know, I need to find out.
Yes, it's true. And, it's funny, like when it comes to religious issues, people, they are very...
They're interested to know.
They are not. Why, if they want to do, let's say, a sort of a trip to another country, believe me, they will get, a PhD. Okay, in that country, okay, they want to know, what they should
streets,
know,
the names, the language.
Yes, the language, and what could offend people, and what are the red lines that he or she should not, do. Okay, when he is there. So this is funny. Funny in a sad way, in a negative way, that people are dedicating more time to those tiny, I would not call them tiny, but things which are more materialistic, okay, while when it comes to religious issues, they are not. Why? Because they are always having that fear that if you are religious, okay, or you have religious knowledge about your culture or about your religion, then you are narrow-minded. Or people will think bad about you, or people will think that
you won't look cool anymore.
Yes, exactly. They will think, oh, you're religious? Oh, I don't want to go with you. I'm sorry. But in fact, And there's also another factor contributing to this. There's sort of a misunderstanding, from some people who are trying to follow the religion. Okay, they think that, this is the best way to follow the religion. Okay, while, like if you look at, some scholars, okay, and people who are following, religion, okay, piece by piece, okay, they will tell, you will see that, their life is completely different. So these people who are not fully aware of the religion and they're trying their best to follow the religion, sometimes present or represent the religion in a negative way. So people assume that religion is always, an obstacle to advance and so on.
Ahmed, I don't want to deviate from this topic, but normally you come across people, they say, whatever I do is between me and God.
Yeah.
And faith is in the heart.
Yeah.
It's not in my actions. Okay? What can you say about this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, this statement to some extent is true. This kind of relationship should be between a person and God. And there is no mediator in between, actually. This is, the normal relationship. Okay, but in fact, in order to have that strong relationship between you and God, you have to know the teaching. Without, knowledge...
And you have to follow.
You have to follow. Because, eventually, believe me, if you know the teachings, okay, and the principles and the guidelines of that relationship, that will be reflected in the way you talk, the way you behave, the way you act. So actually...
And don't you find it contradicting that you would say that I have a strong relation with God while you don't follow what God has commanded you
to do?
This is very contradictory.
Yes. These people are trying to just escape or, let's say...
give excuses.
Or minimize the role of scholars. Because, scholars are trying to make our life easier. Okay, by explaining to us...
To make us understand the religion better.
The religion and so on. Okay, this is why, they dedicate, more time and effort for this, project, of life. Okay, but these people are just trying to create, excuses, for their laziness. Okay, and they said, okay, I would just, make this kind of relationship between me and God, and I don't want to show it to people and so on. Well, come on, you always, deal with people, okay, first of all, and, your actions, okay, will speak louder, okay, and people can notice whether you're a good person or not, by your actions.
The thing, Ahmed, that people don't understand, if you take an example of non-Muslims, when they become Muslims, when you see them from a mile on the street, you would know that this is a Muslim. Because they would live Islam, every single bit of it, and they would adopt the culture. The first thing, even before understanding even how to pray, they would adopt the culture of Islam. But here you find Muslims where they neglect the culture of Islam and they pretend to have a relationship with Almighty Allah.
First of all, coming to the first point, which about, those who convert or revert, to Islam. Okay, these people, they usually make that decision after what? After they understand the whole concept of that religion. Okay, and so not like, the other group. Okay, they are born to be Muslims. Okay, they inherited, the religion.
The religion,
Okay, this is why we don't have discussions, at home to talk about, issues. Because, for us, these are like taboos, we don't talk about, such issues. Because I don't want, my son to be, a terrorist, in terms of ideas and so on. This is not, the right way to look at things. Religion is not a scary thing. Religion is an organizing tool, okay, of your life. Because, our life is full of distractions, okay, from, they're coming from everywhere. And if you don't have that organizing tool, then you will end up, having a lot of confusion, okay, making a lot of mistakes. And not only that, sometimes, you might do a lot of crazy things that, might not harm the person himself or herself, but harm, the whole society, which is, a big crime, on that, society or that person.
Ahmed, let us get back to today's topic. Young people. They're a bit confused of what being cool is. Everybody wants to be cool. But how can you be cool?
Well, this is funny, cool.
Where did it start?
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, cool. First of all, it's funny. The word "cool" in English means something to do with the opposite of hot or something like that. In terms of temperature, but people are using it to be somebody who's awesome, somebody who's fantastic, and so on.
Attractive,
and so on. So there's a kind of new use
terminology,
for, or new, I would say, use of the word cool. Now, they of course, confused, because now those people who are promoting, certain trends in terms of fashion, behaviors, and manners, they always try to make those people who are trying to imitate, believe that, the action that they are doing is what? Cool. I will give you one example. This is, one thing, that we would like to compare between two different cultures. Let's say, for example, the Arab and Muslim cultures and, the Western cultures. I will give you an example. TV, for example. In the Western world, you have to get a cable, you see? So you have a choice. You have, you can make a decision, like what kind of channels you want to watch and so on. Here, you have to take, do you understand? You see the difference here? You take the whole package without any, kind of thing. But, if you want to watch anything bad, in Western cultures, especially, you have to what? Subscribe for it. Which means, you have to make a choice yourself. While here, if you check, the channels that we have, you don't have to have a cable of watching, a lot of bad things here.
You get everything.
You can watch everything here, okay? So it's a sort of an organizing process. Even if you want to do something wrong, you do it in what? In the right way. You see how things, compared, between the two cultures. So this is why, we're having, this confusing, among our generation. Okay, people. We have, these people cannot get, they are exposed to huge resources, of, damage. Movie stars who are, portraying, a lot of, bad qualities, songs, any kind of, bad action is there. While, in some Western cultures, you need to pay for it before you get it. Here, you almost get it for free.
Okay.
Yes. And so, that's also. So we are contributing also in this, confusion that, our generation or new generation is having. Okay. So we have to do something about it. And
this brings me to my next question, Ahmed, which is our Islamic history is rich with successful heroes and role models. But despite this, our young generation are not interested to follow them. Why is that?
Well, coming back to the idea we talked about, a long time ago, or in the first part, which is ignorance. We are becoming, sort of a defeated, nation. We just feel that, our religion, is an obstacle, is a way that makes us, go
backwards,
which is not true, and, the other tools that, the other people are using to promote for their ideas, or for their heroes, are really powerful. We are not doing,
we're not doing enough to promote
for such a thing, And, imagine, I was checking, some of the textbooks, in some of the Western countries. And you cannot imagine how these people, are exposed to their own culture. They love, their country because of what they're doing in their educational system.
The heroes are magnified, glorified.
Yes, and you cannot, and when they talk about them in a way that makes everybody inside the classroom believe this is something, that they have to learn. So now, if you compare, the curriculum that we have here with the curriculum that they have there, you will see that there's a huge gap in terms of what enhancing, the understanding of what the role that our heroes played, in the humanity, and the history actually of humanity. And so we are not doing enough to promote for such a thing. And as I told you before, we have this fear I don't know when we're going to get rid of this fear. Okay, and phobia,
Yeah.
okay, of religion. I wish, one day that, we could sit together, we spare, more time to talk and discuss issues related to why we are doing, this ritual, for example, okay? Why we are doing that, why we are fasting, why we are praying, for example, why we're doing that, And of course, like, as Muslims,
maybe, Ahmed, we have not been doing our homework.
Yes, for sure. And, we mentioned, like one of the reasons at the beginning that, parents, okay, do not play a role in enhancing or improving, the image of the religion. So it started at home, okay? And of course, before that, the parents should be what? Well educated about, such issues.
Maybe I think it's not only about parents, even the mosques.
Yes.
People just go to pray now.
Yeah.
There is no learning whatsoever.
Yeah.
In some of the mosques, not all of them.
Yeah.
So I think the community as a whole,
the community is not doing,
is guilty of this.
Yes, and not only that, sometimes the way we preach, the way we teach, okay, sometimes is playing also a very vital role in making people, like or get convinced, okay, with the teaching. Because sometimes, you might say something, but the way you say it will
makes
make
a big difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have, this is maybe, part of the solution that we're going to talk about, later on. But, I just, think, that everybody is involved. Family, okay, neighbors, okay, educational institutions, governments, okay, almost every single person in the community. Religious authorities, they have to think about, a way where they can promote for such a thing. Why we have to like, our heroes, for example. And also we have to make other people also who are not, part of the religion.
Give our young generation a reason to love our heroes.
Yes, and like why, like the other thing is that we have to also to understand is we have also to promote like what the way they promoted, for their role models or heroes. Okay, if we know more about them, why don't they know also about our heroes?
Our heroes, yeah.
Okay, so we are not doing, enough to promote for such a thing. Because also we have this feeling of what, not being cool. Again, to the idea of being cool. Because, when I talk about, certain issues, people will run away from me. And they will think that, I'm not a cool guy and so on.
Yeah.
So there's a defeat within us, okay, that we have to change, okay? And we have to show the people that we are very proud of what
the thing, Ahmed, if we are not proud of our culture and our religion, what do we expect others to do?
Well, this is it's very sad. Yeah, and as I said before, and maybe you mentioned also this, that we have to work hard in making, people believe, first of all, in their teachings and why they are doing so. And hopefully, one day we'll get to that, stage, hopefully. Yeah.
Ahmed, young people, again, are not scared anymore to imitate in public.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's first of all, as we said, it's something to do with what? Ignorance. Yeah. First of all, like if I just care about myself, and I don't care about, other people who could be harmed because of my action, then I take things, easily, and, I do whatever I want, so they don't, get scared of anything now. They said, who cares if, you get harmed? I don't care. Because, they don't have that fear of God anymore. Lack of what? Belief. There's a weakness in their belief, okay, if there's any, in a way. Okay, because sometimes, you find people who are Muslims by names, okay, or by default, okay, but they don't know that, why they're praying, for example, why they are fasting. They don't have enough education. Or maybe they don't practice, rituals. And I've seen a lot of people, that, they are named Muslims, but they don't practice the teachings of Islam, okay? So that weakness...
But this is a dangerous thing, Ahmed, because basically once you carry the label of a Muslim, you represent Islam, you're an ambassador.
Yes.
And people associate Muslims with Islam, which is a dangerous thing as well.
And this is we're talking about those people who are moving to other countries, where they go and study and so on, okay, and they represent the religion in a very negative way. Okay, and what I have noticed, from my experience, when I was in the West, they really respect you when you follow your religion more. I just, I remember...
Ahmed, can you say it loudly? Because maybe people do not hear you.
Yes, okay. They really respect you. These people, okay, the Western people, they respect you more when you stick to your teachings, okay? And you try to explain why you do so, why you believe in such a teaching, for example, why you're trying to do this.
Make it clear to them.
I will never forget this, okay? Maybe I should, I know that maybe the time will not allow us, to elaborate on this. But I remember when I text, like my teacher or email my teacher about, fasting, that I will have to, leave the class and
this is when you were studying.
When I was studying in the U.S. So I emailed my teacher that, every, day, I sent her, the schedule of, the time for breaking my fasting. And believe it or not, she emailed all the students in the classroom that they should not eat and drink, during, that time.
Just because of you?
Because of me. They nobody asked them to do so. And I remember one day, one of my classmates, she asked me if she can drink water because, she was thirsty. And she said, I was coming from work and, I didn't drink before coming to the class. So can you allow me to drink inside the classroom?
And it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. Exactly. She doesn't have to ask your permission.
Yes, exactly. But, she considered my situation.
And she respects you.
And she respects, my religion. And she respected, the fact that, I'm, trying to stick to my teaching without harming her, culture and religion. This is like a mutual, thing. Okay? Understanding, between the two cultures. I have also to show that respect, to other people who are showing respect to me. Okay,
Ahmed, this is very, very important that everybody understands this. But Ahmed, we spoke about all the problems, okay, and it's not fair to leave the topic open without suggesting also some such solutions. So can you please take us quickly to some of the solutions?
And like when we're talking about the idea of you said something about that the group, your friends, who are making this a group, they're trying to maintain. Okay, identity, promote, and so on. We need to invent, some modern ways, okay, to promote for, role models, to be followed in our culture. We have to get that fear outside, from us, so that we believe in our culture. So we have to think of what modern methods and ways, to protect, our culture. Another thing that we have to spread awareness, like in our homes, okay, in our schools, in our societies, the role of the mosque, should be even more and more so that, people will not get scared or they just go to the mosque only for praying and, for, the rituals on. And so that's the thing. And another thing that, we need to work on, we need to clarify a lot of misconceptions about our culture. Okay. Or about our religion, okay, so that people have an idea about, the true religion or the truth of this religion, so that they will try to talk about it, in a positive way, to other people. And of course, we have to work on, our souls, okay, or our spirituality, so that we tend to show, the good example to people who are meeting and talking to us.
Ahmed bin Barak al-Matani, thank you so much for being with us. Dear listeners, I'm your host Hatem Al-Absalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.